As a mastering and mixing engineer, I get asked this question pretty much every single day. Can you master and mix exclusively on headphones? The short answer is yes, you can. The long answer is yes, you can, but. Hi, welcome to the Crates Motel. My name is Conan, and today we're going to be discussing mixing and mastering exclusively in the box on headphones. Now, one of the first things I want to point out is mixing and mastering on headphones is definitely not for everybody. A lot of mixing and mastering engineers, musicians, producers like the feeling of being in the room, like the ambience, like the idea of the speakers hitting them in the chest and being able to feel the music around them. Now, I've been mixing and mastering since the mid-80s, and mastering I'd say probably for about 20 years. Now, I've worked in big studios that have been acoustically treated, small studios acoustically treated, large studios that are terrible, small studios that are terrible. I've worked in the centre of a city. I've had studios out in the middle of the countryside where I was convinced I was going to write the next Led Zeppelin album. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that over the last 30 or so years, I've worked in pretty much every environment, and every single one of those environments, I've had to get used to that environment, whether it be acoustically treated or whether it be a really, really bad room. Now, about 3 years ago, I found myself in a situation where I was working exclusively in the box and I'd sold all of my outboard equipment, but I was still working on monitors. Now, I live in the Middle East, and in the Middle East, there's no carpet on the floors. So most of the rooms have got high ceilings, tiled floors, and there's a lot of reverb. So it takes quite a lot of money to acoustically treat these rooms. And I was also finding I was moving around quite a lot, and every single time I moved, I would have to get used to the room again, used to the environment again, and used to how those speakers sounded in that room. Now, this was obviously affecting my workflow, and it was obviously affecting the speed in which I was being able to get my finished product, my finished masters, my finished mixes out to my clients. So then I started experimenting with the idea of working exclusively in the box, but also exclusively working with headphones. And with headphones, I'd always use them in mastering. I mean, with mastering, you use them to check for clicks and pops. They're obviously very useful for editing because you can get really close in on any kind of detail. So I'd always use headphones in mixing and mastering, but I'd never really toyed with the idea of using them for mixing and mastering exclusively, not using monitors whatsoever. It was kind of went against everything I'd learned since the mid-80s, that you had to have speakers, you had to have the room, you had to have acoustic treatment. Now, at this point, I'd already let go of the idea of outboard equipment. I didn't have a big mixing desk anymore. I'd got rid of all of my synths, I'd got rid of all of my outboard compressors and EQs. So I'd already gone completely in the box. So then experimenting with the idea of just using headphones and not using monitors kind of seemed like a natural progression to me. It basically meant that I could mix and master anywhere. Now, I had lost a few jobs because I'd been away, I'd been traveling, and somebody had called me and said, oh, we need a master turning around quickly, can you do it? And I'd be like, well, no, I'm away from my studio, I've only got my laptop with me. And I wasn't really feeling confident enough at that point to mix or master a track completely on the headphones. I think there'd always been a barrier there. I think I'd always thought to myself, well, I can't mix and master completely in headphones. I need monitors. That's what I'd always done since the mid-80s, and that's what I'd always seen other mixing and mastering engineers do. And so taking into consideration my availability, the fact that I was moving around a lot, the fact that I couldn't acoustically treat every single room, it didn't really start seeming like such a crazy idea to mix and master exclusively in headphones. Now, initially, the feeling that I had was the same feeling that I had when I would change rooms. I would wonder, am I going to be able to get the sound that I had before? I have a particular style to my mixing and mastering, and my clients come back to me because I have that particular style. So obviously, to begin with, I would question my mixes and my masters, wondering, all those classic things that people think when they're working in headphones. Am I going to get the reverbs right? Is the stereo panning going to be right? Is the bass going to be right? Is the treble going to be right? Is the mid-range going to be right? Is anything going to be right? But then what I started doing was, I started thinking, perhaps I should think in the same mindset that I did when I moved into a new studio. When you take into consideration things like, how is the room going to affect the low end? How is the room going to affect just the whole sound? And then with that mindset, I started thinking, well, what I really need to do is get used to the headphones. So basically the conclusion that I came to was, if I listen to enough tracks in my headphones that I know sound good on big systems, that I know sound good in the car or on the radio or on your phone, and if I listen to enough of those songs and I can make my songs sound like that in my headphones, in the box, then my tracks are going to sound good on a big system, are going to sound good in the car, are going to sound good on a phone, are going to sound good on a mono Bluetooth speaker. So once I'd accepted that it was actually possible to mix and master professionally on headphones with professional results, then the real fun began. Now what I want to do now is just outline what I use in the studio to mix and master. Now there's no right or wrong here, this is my personal preference, this is equipment that I use. It's not right for everybody. My equipment might not be right for anybody else. I really want to stress that with headphones especially, it has to be a personal choice. So the headphones I'm using at the moment are the Audeze LCD-X. I also use the Beyerdynamic 770s, the 880s and the 1990s. And I use the Shure 535 in-ear monitors. And I also sometimes cross-check on my DJ headphones, my Sennheiser HD25s. I have those headphones to cross-reference, the same way an engineer would cross-reference with several different monitors in their studio. It's not an essential thing. All my critical decisions are made on my Audeze LCD-X. The interface I'm using is the RME ADI. I like the way it sounds. It has a great headphone amp. I don't use any outboard equipment, so I don't really need any inputs. It does the job. I like it. And again, that's the most important thing. The DAW I'm using at the moment is Studio One from Presonus. Again, it's a personal preference. It does what every other DAW does. I like it because I mix and master in it, and it gives me all the functions that I need to do that. And those are really the three main things that you need to mix and master in the box: headphones, interface, and a DAW. Now at the start of the video, I said you can mix and master in the box exclusively on headphones, but now I want to get to the but. Firstly, you're going to really need to know those headphones. You're going to need to listen to a lot of music in those headphones. Not hear music, listen to music. You need to be analytical. You need to be able to hear transients. You need to be able to hear the low end. You need to be able to listen across the entire frequency spectrum. You need to be able to hear separation. You need to be able to hear reverb. And you really need to be able to learn how those things sound in your headphones. And once you get used to dissecting those songs, you can start using those songs as references. And in the box, on headphones, referencing is super important. Super important. So let me break it down for you. Let's take Around the World by Daft Punk. Now, I know that that sounds good in a club. I know that that sounds good at a festival. I know that sounds amazing in the car. I know that sounds amazing on cheap earbuds, on a Bluetooth speaker, on everything. I really don't know how they got it to sound so good, but it sounds amazing on everything. It's one of my biggest reference records, and it has been for pretty much since it came out. Now, if I can make my masters sound that good and my mixes sound that good in my earphones, if I can listen to Around the World by Daft Punk in my earphones and then switch to my master and my master sounds that good, I know that my master is going to sound great on a nightclub system, at a festival, etc, etc. You get the picture. It really is that easy. Obviously, it's not that easy to get your record to sound as good as Daft Punk's Around the World. But if you start having the mindset, if you start building that library, that if I've got a library of tracks that I know sound good, then all I really need to do is make my masters and mixes sound that good in my headphones. It's that easy. So that's all I really wanted to touch on in this video. I'm going to go into a lot more detail in other videos, but I just wanted to get across to people that it is possible to mix and master with professional results in the box on headphones. But I also wanted to get across that it takes work, it takes study. You know, you really have to learn how music sounds in your headphones and how that music translates to other systems. You have to really learn how to analyze music. There really is no magic formula. There really is no magic bullet. There's no easy way. It takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of study, a lot of things you really might just want to jump over. Is there not a piece of software that I can get that I just press that works for that record? Well, you know, there is. There is software that you can press a button and it works for that particular record. But if you really want to take mixing and mastering seriously, you need to be prepared for every eventuality. And that magic bullet that worked for that record is not going to work for that other record. So you really need to study. That's what I really want to get across. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe because I will be making more videos on this subject, and we will be doing some mastering and mixing tutorials and plugin reviews. This is the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. See you next time.